Welcome back to the Big Roofs podcast where we talk about roofing and other stuff as well. We have we're your guests, John and AJ, and we have an awesome guest today, Mike Goldenstein, the one and only Un-Influencer. And welcome to the
Awesome.
show, Mike.
Thanks. It's a privilege to be here. I appreciate it reaching out and yeah, I'm looking forward to it.
Awesome. Absolutely. Well, let's just get it out of the way. We have to talk about it at some point. Let's talk about why are you the Un-Influencer? What's the origin of that?
Is it the unfluencer or the
Or yeah,
uninfluencer?
So the way I originally set it up was the Un-Fluencer. And
Un-Influencer.
yeah, I happen to be, man, I've only told this story very few because it's become one of those things it's kind of grown its own legs and moving its own. It was something that I thought was funny, but it was really in response to a video that I was watching where an influencer was responding to a gentleman. This gets pretty dark, but a gentleman had gotten hit by a car and he was laying sprawled out in the middle of a road and hit hard enough that he was separated from his shoes, and it looked really serious. In fact, the guy said, he thought he was dead. And I'm watching this basically in horror as the guy pulls out he's doing this live and says, "Stand back, people. I'm a viral content creator." And this was like 5, 6 o'clock on a Saturday morning for me. And I was so horrified by what I was looking at. And at that moment, I said, whatever that is, I want to be the complete opposite of it. And my mindset are like, what is the opposite of an influencer? Because if I ever get into the mental capacity that I can't separate myself from creating content in a situation like that, then just shoot me because I'm gonna be gone. So I started looking around and so what is the opposite of an influencer? Because that's what I want to be. And I came up with Un-Fluencer, and I started Googling it to see if anybody was doing any content on Un-Fluencer, and I couldn't believe it. I couldn't find anything. So then I just started, but I've tried to make it fun, right? And put in a higher light that, I don't want to bash people necessarily, because I think content creation is kind of fun. And I enjoy watching people be creative and do content and have the freedom to express themselves. I do really enjoy it, but it's hard not to troll them sometimes as well. And so and I hope that for the most part I'm trolling myself, right? And then there's some things that I will post making fun of myself. I don't want to go dark with any of this stuff. I want to keep it light and funny. So, but that's kind of the story of it. I don't tell that story very often, but that's the origination of it.
That's a good. We have
That's a
some
good
pretty
story.
limited knowledge of that. I don't know. There's a lot of people that know that story. So,
Yeah.
content can be fun, can be educational, can be helpful, can be community driven, can help people. But I think you're right. Like I was just climbing on a roof on like a 30-foot ladder, and I could be filming somebody falling off a roof. Like, oh, don't do this. The ocean not approved. Or I could be, helping the dude and making sure. How about hold the ladder? Stop
Yeah.
filming and hold the ladder,
Mm.
and make sure people like that. I think that's definitely a possibility. Is probably actually happening. Like, no, we got to get this shot, and it's like, let's be safe first. We're doing roofing. I mean, we're just 30 feet in the air. Let's be safe first, and then shoot the content later and help your customers and all that other stuff. But I do think that there is a shift in perspective in people's priorities as it relates to content in the roofing space.
Yeah,
Mm.
and I kind of feel like Facebook eggs you on.
Oh yeah.
I got to the position where, I was posting not a lot, but very consistently. Once a day is about my limit. I mean, I'll do sometimes it'll be a couple that'll end up on my feed, but I'm kind of a once a day guy. And my numbers started really growing to the point where, I started getting these messages from Facebook, hey, if you're posting once or twice, you should try it 3 or 4 times. And I remember that was right just about Christmas time, this last Christmas, and I thought about it. I'm like, I, I should be posting more. I mean, look at the number, my effectiveness, and as the chief revenue officer of Roofle, like this only helps the company, and because I do a lot of content based on my role with the company that I work for. And as fast as it came to me, it left because I'm like, that's exhausting to think, to try to come up with 3 to 4 pieces of content a day that is going to be within the parameters of what I've set for myself as good content and not just noise and noise making. Um, and so I just quit. I literally quit. I went like 10 days without posting anything. And I'm just kind of started getting back into it. I just, it's a fine line, and you guys probably know it. I mean, you guys see it too, that Facebook lives because content creators live. And man, I have my limits though.
Yeah. It really is exhausting. We're currently at Peach State Roofing. We're, new brand, have to put out the content so people know that we're not Delaria Roofing anymore. Like, it's a thing, but it's like, oh my gosh, like we're already doing scheduled posts, and now we need to do reels, and now we need to do TikTok, and it's just like, oh gosh, this is not what I just want to. I want to help people with roofing, and that is a vehicle to help people with roofing if you do it correctly, but it is exhausting.
Yeah. But it's kind of fun because when you start seeing results of your efforts, and that is a real thing too. And I think for Roofle, we're what, 15 months that I've been here, and I think what the efforts that we've put in have absolutely paid off. We used to walk into a room and nobody's ever heard of who we are, what we do, and certainly not the product that we're bringing to the table, because there's not a lot of competitors in the space. It was a fairly new category, and but we're seeing that. I'm walking into rooms now that people know exactly who we are and what we do, and it's been exciting to see results that way too. So whatever you think or how the algorithm works, I don't really care to learn it, but at the same time, I think it does reward that consistency and the long-term play, which has been exciting to actually see what you did, over the course of time.
Yeah, I would agree. From both the roofing company and ProLine, it's like, I watched 40 of your videos. I'm like, oh my gosh. Okay, cool. And they're like already sold. They already know what we're doing. They know what the value that we bring. For ProLine, definitely they've done that. That's an actual customer said that. And then roofing, we sold a job a couple weeks ago. Like, they had seen everything. They had even searched me enough to see things that were not Peach State Roofing. They had gone like down the rabbit hole of YouTube and just found ProLine videos. And it is like, it is a wild kudos to James, because we have over 500 videos on YouTube right now in 120 days, like that, something like that. Like
it's very
like,
fast.
I'm filming a lot for him, and we're obviously using long form video to create short form video, but like 500 videos, and like, it's working. It's helpful. People understand that they have questions. We're answering the questions. They ask, you answer. Same thing.
Yeah, and more. It's so interesting to look at the mindset of the current buyers, and and I say we. I'm old now. I just turned 50 last week. So
Yeah, you did.
But the generations previous, I'm still a Gen Xer, but the millennials and younger than that, the way that they look for value and make buying decisions is so different than my generation and older. And it gets to very specifically, and I've had this conversation with so many people, like the previous generation, if you needed a roof done or work done, what do? You go to your family, friends, networks of people. Oh, I had so and so do theirs, and I really like their work, and I would totally recommend. You get younger generations, and it's hard. This is the hard part for me to even grasp. They actually don't trust that recommendation because they think that you've got an agenda. You are setting yourself up with a friend or a family because that's jading your ability. So they will trust the computer more than they will trust their friends and family. That's a weird place to go, but that's why those 500 videos that you have are going to pay off in the long term. And it's one of the things that's going to revolutionize, and is currently revolutionizing, how we do business, even in the trades.
Yep. It has been a really big struggle for us, that exact like dilemma of our ideal customer is generally somebody who is 45 and older for roofing. not necessarily for ProLine, but for roofing, it has been. So we have not been great at getting referrals the whole time we've been in business. We haven't tried. We've been like funnel driven, not necessarily social media, but there's online presence, SEO, that kind of thing. And we never had a referral. Like, we're working with Brad Akers right now, and he's helping us with like the flywheel. So we continue to work on getting more referrals because that's our ideal customer. But I've been treating this like how I want to buy. I've been selling how I want to. I'll be 40 this year, but I've been treating my business how I want to buy, and I'm not my ideal customer. So like, it's just a lesson for people. Don't just sell how you want to be sold to. You need to actually always identify who your ideal customer is. And it's definitely a mistake that we made. So we're going to correct that this year and get better at getting referrals, because it's not going to change. The cost of owning a home, the cost of repairing a home is just astronomical. So generally people that are 45 and older are going to be able to afford our services because we're a premium roofing contractor. So that is a very good insight from what we've identified, though.
But it's so interesting to hear it from your perspective too. And again, I mean, there's 10 years difference, but you look at, what you've grown up with and what I've grown up with. And like when I left college, I still didn't own a computer. And I was a computer science major for 2.5 years in college, and I switched my major before graduating, but like nobody had a computer. I mean, and if we did, it was just a great big clunky thing that really barely works. But it's fun to go back and think about how I grew up and what I experienced and now what's being produced by this next generation of technology.
Yeah, no, absolutely. It is an interesting world we live in. I feel like the key through all of it is to be a human first, and then whatever, then participate with the technology, then create content. If you do it the other way around, it starts getting real not good. If you're a content creating human, that's all you are. But if you could be a human first and then a content creator, or a human first and then the technology comes next.
Yeah. And man, have fun
Get the
with
right
it. I mean, if you can't have fun, just it's tough when it becomes a job, or if it feels like it comes to be a job. I mean, some people are just really good at it and are very savvy on online, but man, I have fun with it. One of my favorite things to do is, it might sound, egocentric, but I do enjoy opening up, Facebook and looking in the history and what was I doing a year ago, 2 years ago, 5 years ago. Man, it's been like 10 or 12 years ago now. It's fun to see where I used to be, and laughing at something that's stupid that I said or wrote, or being embarrassed by something that I said or wrote.
Agreed.
Absolutely.
I mean, now it's wild to think. You talk about nobody had a computer when you graduated college. I only got a cell phone because my house burned down my senior year of high school. I mean, we didn't have cell phones, but then it wasn't a smartphone. And it's like that world changed in a weird way. And I grew up, I'm on that edge where we didn't have internet when I grew up, and then we had internet, and there wasn't Facebook. And then Facebook was just for universities, it's EDU. And then like that. So I'm on that, like the edge of like, I see kind of both sides of people using the yellow pages legitimately. Like at the first roofing company I ever worked for, they were still putting out yellow page ads, and they were proud of it in the yellow pages. And like, obviously that's gone away now. It's a weird, you have to be willing. I mean, it's changing so fast too, because we don't even know what's going to happen in the next 3 years in this space. Like there were years and years and years where it didn't really change a lot. And now it's like, well, now if you're not putting it, I mean, you could just pay for Google pay-per-click and like get leads and be fine. And now it's like such a weird thing. And then like Google local service ads is the same way. I was like the first one to get LSA on my market. It's like shooting fish in a barrel. And now that's gone. Now that's gone. Like now what's next? Like it's an interesting thing of how you have to be always changing and learning.
Well, the first several years that I was a company owner, so I started hand nailing 3-tab shingles on salt domes around the country in 1992. So by the time I started my own company, late 90s, early 2000s, first 3 years, I still didn't have a cell phone. We like well, the pager, we had a beeper, and different people on the crew would have different codes that they would put in there. Like I always knew who was paging me by they would put a phone number in and then a code behind it. I don't know if you guys even remember any of
Oh
this
yeah.
stuff, but
Oh, I do.
this is how
Yeah.
we this is how we did
I
business.
watched videos about it on the History Channel.
Thank you.
Sorry, that I couldn't resist that one.
So let me challenge you with something like that because I do want to talk about this because we used to talk about this quite a bit when my first few years at GAF is that the the technology actually started making us inefficient. So some of the guys that were doing a crazy amount of business back in those days swore that once they got the cell phones and it was the demand of the consumer was becoming instant, and so it divided your ability to actually accomplish your projects. And so despite having more and more complexity in the technologies, now maybe that has changed, and that's why I kind of want to bring it up. Maybe that's changed again because now the CRMs are becoming so much more streamlined and efficient that it's becoming more efficient again. But there was a good window of 10 years where people could not produce the month they used to because they were so distracted by phone calls that they'd never been I mean, you leave the house, you leave the office, you don't answer the phone or make a phone call until you get back to the office that night. The amount of work that you're able to get done in the course of a day has changed significantly over that time period.
Yep.
Yep.
Protecting your time now is like a big thing.
Huge thing.
Blocking your time. Like it's all because of technology. You didn't have to do that before. You could just leave the house. Hey, I'm going somewhere. If you need me, I'll see you in 8 hours, whatever it is.
I'll
And
be
then
back at 8. Yeah.
it was like, it was weird for people to even think about that not right now. But like, it's all about like not using technology so that you can be efficient. Just like exactly what you're saying is like, it's a weird thing now. And I find myself every single day having to fight the urge to respond to help somebody right then who needs an answer right that moment. It's like it's constant. It's probably right now as we're doing it. My phone's probably blowing up right now. And it's just
Right.
like you got to just learn to figure it out, guys. Like everybody, you can't just like people in general, they just can't problem solve anymore. And that's a really, really big problem. Doesn't really matter your age. We've been talking about different age groups, but like we have all been trained and accustomed now to just get problems fixed because of technology. And then now that no one can problem solve. No one has the ability to sit for a second and be like, okay, what would I do if no one was here? How would I like there's just not a lot of people who can do that now. And it's that is a big problem with the workforce. Whether you're an installer, salesperson, production manager, it doesn't matter. Like people don't know how to problem solve anymore. They just have no ability to do it because they can just Google it. And they don't have to look at their phone anymore. They can just talk
Yeah.
and get the answer.
My wife went back to teaching this year. She went to college as a teacher, got our license, decades ago. Went back to full-time teaching this year, and even the students have changed, the way that they learn, how they learn, and their ability to pay attention and stay focused. There are so many distractions. Man, I would not want to be a teacher these days. I don't know if I could handle it.
No,
You
Cameron.
you were a teacher in the past? You're kind of a teacher, right? I read or heard that somewhere.
Yeah, so I actually do a lot of different topics, and it's one of my passions. So I was actually when I switched from a computer science major in college, it was a Christian education major. So I was a youth pastor and leader in church, and so teaching has always been a big part of my life. But yeah, making this transition then, shortly after that, I think I was a youth pastor for like 6 years back when we were all broke. I mean, everybody was broke. There really was not even full-time, ministry positions open. So that's when I started the roofing company because that's how I worked through college. And then I started a roofing company, and that kind of became my full-time job. So when I made the transition after 18 years to being a manufacturer rep, it was pretty easy transition for me because my heart was helping contractors understand their own jobs. And I say that not condescendingly in any way, but I knew as my success was limited as a contractor because you look at all the conferences now and the YouTube and all the technology, the ability for a contractor to learn today, you can get it anywhere. Back in 90s and 2000s, there was nothing like that. And so I remember the defining moment for me, or the defining year was 2008. And there was massive hailstorms that came through the Twin Cities area. And it was the most work I'd ever done. I mean, it literally came down my road. I did all my neighbors. I did most of my neighborhood. I mean, we were working. I mean, it was the most work I'd ever done. I was exhausting for a year, but that was the year that shingles doubled in price in a year. And I didn't know Xactimate. I mean, I knew people were using Xactimate, but I mean, nobody was teaching anybody back then how to use Xactimate and how to actually do storm restoration work, especially with the price increases and the inflation that was going on during those times. So my first year with GAF was then 2 years later, and it really became my purpose as a rep is to help my contractors be successful and keep up with some of that stuff. So I'm welcoming the amount of education and conferences and the ability for somebody who's new to the industry. I think this roofing industry, I love the roofing industry because it's so forgiving. I mean, you can start from practically nothing and become very, very successful in a short period of time. And now with the ability of the amount of information and the Facebook sites and the groups that you can be in and ask questions and interact with people from around the country have changed and revolutionized the industry to the point where, man, education is so much fun for me. I do a lot of training on codes and compliance and how that relates to storm restoration work. Managed repair programs. I did a lot with MRPs throughout my career in manufacturing, and then and now with Roofle, I spend a lot of time talking about how to keep up with change and the way that technology is evolving the entire industry, and throwing out the word disruptor. I think it's kind of become almost cliche, but it's absolutely happening. There is disruption happening in this industry. I feel like every week I'm learning of a new one that's coming up. So yes, I do enjoy teaching. I enjoy that portion of the industry. I do have a deep appreciation, even if it's bad information. Sometimes it's like, well, it made me think. So
if you could go back to being to your roofing business and you had access to Roof Quote Pro at that point in time, did you even have you had a website, or did you have a website at that point in time?
So
websites.
It's funny you should say that. I mean, I didn't have
I'm
the
not
internet.
trying
I mean,
to make a joke there.
we had AOL was just coming online. You get the disc in the mail and you try it out. And funny you should say that, but I did have somebody and I paid them, I can't remember, $450 or something like that, and they built me a website, and it was horrible. I mean, it looked like it was built on Microsoft Word. But I got a couple of calls, but they were from all around the country. I mean, it was a guy from New York City that wanted to get an estimate on their roof, and I'm like, I'm in Minnesota. I know. So I mean, this was very, very early time, but yeah, I did have a website for a year, and it did me absolutely no good. So I think I just
taken it down.
So
at the time even if you'd had a Roof Quote Pro at the time, would that have made any kind of an impact? I guess there wasn't enough traffic. There wasn't enough people looking on there.
But again, and this is what John was talking about again earlier too. You have to. So there's two different things that are happening right now, and this is one of the reasons I love this job and I love this question. I love this conversation because there are two different adoption points that are happening right now with instant estimation and this. And the first adoption is by the roofing companies. The roofers have to look at this, and they're scared of a few different things. They're not sure they want to be transparent with their pricing on their website for a variety of reasons. And we learned this at Roofing Insights when he had Marcus Sheridan on stage. You have, I don't know if I want my competition to see my price. And I certainly think that there's some complexities to what I do, my goods and services, that I don't even know if I can accurately give you a price because it's so complex. And the third of which is, even if all those things were not a big deal to me, I am scared that my consumer, my potential customer, is going to see that price and be scared off. It doesn't matter what industry you're in. Anytime the industry moves to a price transparency, certainly on a website, you're going to be faced with those challenges. And that's what's happening in the roofing industry. So we have this adoption rate that is stifled right now in the roofing industry as roofers are looking at this and going, this is different. This is new. I don't know if I want to go there. That's not the way that I do business. But that's also the catch. And that's what we were talking about too, is that I get it. That's not the way you do business, but how does your consumer make buying decisions? Those are two different questions. Now, even if I had a very upfront, very easily accessible, amazing website that had an instant estimator in 2003, the fact of the matter is that's not how buyers 20, 30 years ago made decisions. They're not going to trust the computer as much as they trust their friend or neighbor or somebody that, right? Because that's where the value lies. That is what it's changing and has changed, and why instant estimation, this is probably the perfect time to get into instant estimators and understanding how that relates to your business, because not only are roofing companies accepting that this is the future, they are understanding that now a third, getting close to a half of their consumer base is demanding this. This is how they make decisions. So yeah, I don't think it would work, not just because we didn't have computers, but because that's not how they made buying decisions back then.
Yeah. Yeah, no, that makes total sense. And you bring up some great things here that I want to touch on, because these are sort of the pushback that you're getting from roofing contractors. It's the, talking about the competition, the scaring customers, and then also like how do you ensure accuracy when this is such a complex process? So I want to kind of go through those one at a time. So let's start with the competitors. Like, what is your answer to that? Is there something that Roof Quote Pro does to help sort of make it hard for competitors to see what your pricing is through Roof Quote Pro? Or do you guys just have something that you tell customers like, hey, it's not something to worry about? What's your approach there?
Well, so there's two. Let's break contractors into two buckets while we answer some of these questions, because it does change a little bit. It doesn't, but it does, right? So if you're storm restoration, guess what? You're all working off the same price sheet anyway. You got to be kidding me. Yeah, everybody has Xactimate. You know exactly where you're at, where the carrier's at, and where your competition's at. I mean, there's not much more for you to learn about how to price a project. I mean, y'all are working off the same price sheet, but it's very similar in the retail side of things. And I know there's a bigger variation from one contractor to another when it comes to retail, but you can't tell me that you don't already know where your competitor is and that they know where you are. Like you know each other's prices because you've been competing for years against each other. And so that one is actually a pretty easy one for people to understand and go, yeah, I kind of know where, XYZ roofing company is and Peach State Roofing is. I mean, I've come across them enough that I know where they're at, and everybody already kind of knows each other's pricing generally. So to see it on a website,
we don't even try. We don't even try. We never, ever, ever ask for like the other estimates ever, and we know. Like, if you don't know, you're just not even paying attention. You know where everybody else is.
Yeah. Yeah.
So it's really it's really at the end of the day, it's not really a serious concern. Totally makes sense.
I don't think it is. And I mean, it's a reason to reject, the idea of making, putting it on your website, but it's not really, it's not really a big of an issue as people think.
That makes sense. What about the argument of, I don't want to scare my customers. I need to be at their home. I need to see their roof so I can break down to them exactly why it's this cost before they see any numbers. If they go on their website and they just fill out their address, they're going to get scared off.
Yeah. And man, I mean, there is a little bit of a complexity to that, the answer to that question, because again, feel the helplessness of the consumer in that situation. They did their roof 8-10 years ago. It was $8,000. And now it's suddenly $15,000 and $18,000. Like there's a helplessness and kind of a blindsiding that happens because they've been left behind of what's been happening in the industry. Nobody's paying attention to the roofing industry outside of roofers. So, when customers are scared away from the price, it's not like they're scared away from you or they're scared away from, being gouged. That's not the issue. The issue is they need information. And if you're unwilling to give them information and allow them to be scared in that moment, then they're not going to trust you with your brand and your value proposition either. So that's another one of those that you have to be very careful about. Are they really scared? And if they're scared, what are they scared of and why are they scared? And how can I alleviate their fears while also building that trust with them and saying, here, I know this looks weird. You had it was 8,000 a few years ago. It's 15 now, but you're also doing that in a matter of seconds, not hours, which again goes back to the, giving the homeowner what they need to make a wise decision, but also not wasting your time or creating a huge bottleneck within your business where you're sending somebody out to have those conversations. You're actually getting that done on the front end instead of the back end. John could probably talk about that.
Yeah. So, I mean, we just got our, I started working with SMA without even knowing that Joe was associated with SMA too. So SMA just did their, I know it's February, but we just did our year-end report, and it was really insightful because we looked at lead sources and conversion ratio for lead sources, and Roof Quote Pro is pretty low from their perspective. But what I'd say is, I've told this to lots of contractors. The main reason why it may look low is because you do have consumers who are like, you're way too high, or whatever the reason is. Oh, I'm just getting a price. And then it's a good thing. This is why it's so important to have some sort of automation that follows up after they use it, because those customers are not saying no, they're saying not now. So the conversion is lower because people are like, oh, this is fun. It's almost gamified. It's like we get on Roof Quote Pro. I've always wondered, what is it? And then we give them a range of pricing, in good, better, best, and they're getting a very, very robust answer for their question. How much does my roof cost? But then they don't convert because they're like, what? This is 20 grand. And then you're like, oh, okay, well, that's fine. Well, we'll follow up with you immediately with a text and an email saying, hey, you want to schedule an inspection? They'll say yes or no. That's fine. They don't. We, Kathleen, myself, Clay, whoever is following up with them, if they say no, we're not doing it right now. We just had this. We had a lead 2 days ago, just like this. I was just seeing how much it was. Okay, great. We'll move you to long-term follow-up. You're going to have long-term. We're not losing that customer forever. It's so, so important because you will not see the value in any of these instant estimator tools because that person's going to forget about you unless you're sending them consistent postcards and it's not helpful. You're not creating that real long snowball effect of gathering these leads long-term.
You're building an audience, really. That is
long term.
I mean, there is an immediate value. You're gonna sell a percentage, but your funnel for collecting an audience is much wider. So you're gonna get more overall leads, but you have to be able to then capitalize on that audience over time by dripping communication and messaging to them.
Correct. So on the flip side, for contractors who talk about they're gonna, we're gonna customers and contractors who say that we're showing prices or we're too, and the homeowners are saying we're too high. Okay. And then we just lose them forever. This can happen if you don't have the process in place. If you just show we had another really, really small, this is a crazy small, it was less than 1,000 square foot house. And they had numbers that were half of our numbers. I was like, I don't know. There's no ability to sell at that point. I get that. Let's talk about why they're half. Why are they $7,000 for your roof? That doesn't make sense in any way. And so I get from contractors' perspective worried that they're not able to sell and to show value if you just give them price. I get that. But we're able to do it because we have ProLine. We send them videos and like we show the complete roof system. We show why we do it. We show the warranty differences. And there's very little, we're not having to drive to their house and sit at the kitchen table because they don't want that anyway. They want to get the price right then at 9:52 at night. But you're still getting to provide value and show differences. And we definitely have converted people. They're like, I don't like the way that feels. Why are they 11,000 and this person's 7? Why? And so we have converted lots of people because Roof Quote Pro, in my mind, is a very good way to pre-qualify ideal customers. Like if they're not going to value complete roof system and warranties and the way we install, they're not going to get
time anyway.
Yeah, waste of everybody's time. We don't have to drive to their house and figure that out. They can do it, and it's a more enjoyable experience for them too. And these are, we're talking about age groups before. This is all age groups. Not just under 40, but our ideal customer over age 45, they're doing the exact same thing. They don't want 5 roofers or 3 roofers to come to their house, whether they're retired or not. A lot of our people are retired. They could sit there and wait, but that's not what they want to do. They certainly don't want to take off work for 3 different roofers one day. So, there's a lot of things I just said there. This is a good thing that you need to be doing if you're a roofing contractor. You need to have something on your website that gives the customer, if you think from the customer's perspective, not the way I talked bad about myself before, how I sell how I want to be sold to. That's not what you're supposed to do. You figure out your ideal customer. How do they buy? And then create your business around the way that purchasing experience. And you will convert more of those leads into actual jobs.
Yeah, and think about it in what do they value, not necessarily what do you value.
Yep.
And I am hearing a lot about that. Now I'm excited about that because I think, and again, it ties back to what we were talking about before. In this digital age that's fast and chaotic, you have people understanding the value of their time. They will pay a premium for the process as much as they will pay a premium for the goods that you're providing. So if you say, I'm going to save you the hassle of taking a day off of work to do this, but you're going to pay a little bit extra for this process, and they're like, sign me up, because my time is so valuable. If I can do this quickly, I will pay a premium for that process over even some of the goods and services potentially. Now, again, I think there's very dynamic ways for, and that's why you can see in the way that we've created our software that it's primary to the process, that you're able to pull your branding, your value proposition, real products, real warranties through that process so that you can build all of that value. But at the end of the day, this audience, especially currently, are probably more apt to pay a premium for your process as they are for all of that branding and that value proposition that you're creating as well.
Tesla is a great example of this. The Tesla Model Y, which I bought for my wife in 2020, is the reason why we were going to become a Roofle certified vendor. Before that, when that process stopped, I already wanted that process for my roofing company, because I was sitting, me and my wife was watching Netflix, and she built her car. We bought it in less than an hour. It was delivered. It was such an easy experience. We did not have to drive, take half a day off work to go to a dealership to sit there for them to drag it out for 3 or 4 hours. Like it's a terrible, terrible experience to do that. I don't care. But that's why dealerships are like, we guarantee you'll be in and out in less than 90 minutes. Okay. That's what they have to do now.
Yeah,
because
if you agree to their high, if they're high,
yeah, exactly.
price.
Exactly. So it's like, you're not giving a good experience and you're not giving a great price either. But I say all that because this is people that's the #1 selling car in the entire world right now, the Model Y. It's not just because of the hype of it. It's not, the quality is not even phenomenal. Like, it's not, you can buy better cars for the same price. You can buy Toyota. It's better. It's the fact that the way you buy it is so easy. It's because you don't have to go to a dealership. That is exactly the reason why people buy it. And people are not talking about that much, and it's all age groups. I know people think it's like young people. No, it is my ideal customers buy Teslas because they value their time too. That's why I was like, oh, I need to sell roofs that way, because people that buy Teslas also buy premium roof services, and that's what we do. That's exactly what we do. That's what Roof Quote Pro does. That's that. If you're talking about like what's different about Roof Quote Pro than the other people, that's what Roof Quote Pro is. Like, it is a much better, from a customer perspective, buying experience than any other instant estimator. There's no clip art out there. They know exactly what roof system they're getting. They can choose their like, it's a way better experience. They're making a large ticket purchase. They need to see all the details. You cannot say 20 grand. Look at this clip art. Here we go. Well, if that works, that's hilarious. Like, people that do not see that, like roofers that do not see that difference, do not understand that these people they're not thinking about the money that they have, that the customer's spending. I don't care if it's $10,000 or $50,000. They're going to make a big ticket purchase, and they need to see everything. It needs to be an excellent experience. And that's the reason why we love Roof Quote Pro over the other people that are out there doing it. It's a big reason, because we want to be perceived as a premium roofing company.
Yeah, that's the all. It makes total sense. I want to circle back though, because I got to hit you with the hard questions here, Mike. I mean, this is, everything that John is saying here, obviously, is the makes a lot of sense. But I still, I'm playing the role of an unconvinced roofing contractor here. Accuracy. How do I know? How can I be confident that Roof Quote Pro is going to accurately quote my jobs, and it's not going to undermine me, underbid, and then I got to go out there and explain why my final price is higher, or issues like that? Can you talk to me about accuracy and how you guys are approaching that?
Yeah, absolutely. And that is the number one responsibility on our shoulders. Like, everything beyond that is customizable to the contractor to create the experience for the consumer in the way that they feel is the best. Our measurements have to be accurate. The data that we provide to the contractor has to be accurate. And that's why we've actually added multiple things to our technology to be able to do that. So we're up to 9 different data sources that we're using in that process to make sure that we're getting the very best data possible, not just so that the number of squares are current and accurate on the structure, the main structure, but up to 10 other structures beyond that. So we want to give you all of the information, but not just that. We are the only ones that are also doing the pitch. Again, we don't want the homeowner to have to choose, is this a low, medium, or steep pitch? They don't know. One homeowner might look at a 10, 12 and go, yeah, that looks pretty low pitch. Yet they're not roofers. They're not acclimated to the space. And generally speaking, their house is probably the only one they actually look at on the roof, right? On a daily basis. So again, we're trying to take those factors that mess up the measurements out of the hands of the consumer, because they don't know. They're not experienced in that. So we detect the pitch, and we now have AI detected complexity that allows a contractor to do now their waste factors, because those waste factors can vary, 10, 15%. So we're trying to give not just accurate data, but more data, so that the contractor can accurately estimate the value of that property in such a way that now the conversation with the homeowner is much easier. Because again, we got to keep going back to trust. What do homeowners trust? Well, if you walk in on a consistent basis and you're saying, well, I know your online estimate was for, 12,000, but it's going to be 18,000. Are you going to be able to sell that job? Probably not. I mean, maybe, but again, we need to make sure that that's dialed into a very real and believable number to the best of our abilities. And so not just the accuracy, but the flexibility within it as well. We're also the only one that allows you to edit those structures inside of the tool itself as well. So you can really dial it in as far as adding other structures, maybe making it a half if you just need, if it's solar, companies love it because they can, estimate a solar project with it. Again, there's a lot that is our job. That is the
Interesting.
pivot point of our software.
Can you customize that margin and waste factor? Like in the roofing contractor for their company, can they customize that before putting it out?
Yep, 100%. So what we do is we give them 3 stages as far as the complexity. We do a simple, medium, and complex, and they can put different waste factors for each one of those.
Gotcha. Yeah, and that's super interesting with I hadn't heard that before. Is that a new thing that you guys are doing with the AI complexity?
So that was my post right about Christmas time when I was about ready to just throw it in. But yeah, when we did that release, I put in the post, this release is probably bigger than our initial launch
Mm,
because now we have so much data. We're not just throwing wet paper towels against a wall and saying, we just wanted your contact information. We don't really care if it's accurate or not. Now we're saying, we've dialed this thing in. You can trust our measurements and you can trust the final, that quote that you're seeing. You can trust that number that's on there because we have already started adding in some of the other escalators to the price that we were never had access to before. Now we have access to those numbers as well.
yeah. I think that makes total sense. And that, I mean, it sounds like you guys are on top of it from the accuracy standpoint. One thing that we're seeing a lot of, and John is doing this same thing. You guys you're talking a lot, allowing people to just get the price and then buy the roof. But it seems like everyone at the moment is mostly using the Roof Quote Pro tool as a way to pull in leads. And then once you have it in the system, you then still are going to have to create the final quote. You're going to have to order the Eagle View or at least, the roofer report and get the final measurements, work out all the numbers, put together that quote. And so some of the pushback that I've personally heard is, if I still have to do all of that, now Roof Quote Pro is an added price. Yeah, maybe if it gets me more leads, but it's just purely, does it get me more leads, right? That's the main question they're asking themselves because they don't seem to be able to replace that other part of the process. And that seems to be somewhat in contrast to what you guys are saying, where you and the rest of Roof Quote Pro is saying, where you're like, the market is changing. This is how people want to do roofs. How are you guys approaching this? Is it something that you guys are trying to pull those together and marry it long term? I don't know if you could fill us in on that.
Yeah, John, I don't know. Do you want to talk about your experiences first, or do you want me to kind of talk about the pathway here?
Oh yeah, so I'm interested to know the roadmap for Roofle. I am,
Yeah.
but I'll say what in the past it has molded over time. It is generally a lead magnet for us. So our process right now, we use it. And to kind of touch back on what you're saying about like if there are differences in price, the consumer is also skeptical of this tool. It's actually in our benefit right now. So when you say ballpark price, they're like, I want a ballpark price. Oh, I know this is not going to be accurate. I'm not going to hold you to it. It's the same thing when they're staring right at you and like, what's the ballpark price? It's the same thing, but they just going to do it at home. So we've had a $6,000 change order because things are out of our control. They weren't the measurements necessarily. It was multiple layers of shingles and rotten decking, the two biggest concerns that are protected in Roof Quote Pro and in our contract. That's fine. So anyone that to overcome that objection from a contractor, the customer they wrote a 5-star review. They're happy. They understood that I'm getting a ballpark price. We gave them that exact price. Hey, these are the 2 ways that we will change your price. It will not change anything else. We documented in Company Cam. You have to do all the processes to get the change order, but you are protected using Roof Quote Pro, using that straight process. The way we use it right now, we get a lead, they schedule an inspection. We would love to inspect the roof before we send an estimate. Before the inspector even gets there, because of the way ProLine works, Kathleen's already written the estimate in ProLine. We have the whole estimate written because we We know it's a qualified lead. We do order Eagle View because we want exact measurements for a material order. That's how we do it right now. We used to not, and that's fine. The problem is it's not about the measurements at that point. It's about giving the proposal to the customer that day. That's why we want it. It's not so much like because the way Roofle Pro is right now, we don't know all the ridge, the valleys. We want to know every linear foot of everything. And so we know our numbers. So we want to be super accurate with that. That's the way we use it right now. Roofle Pro lead comes in, they schedule an inspection through the automation. Once they're pre-qualified, we order Eagle View. We have the proposal ready within 24 hours. And so we want to present that very accurately to the homeowner right now, the same day we inspect. And then if they say, I'm getting 2 more estimates, that's fine. We just send them in ProLine follow up, and they buy the roof from ProLine proposal. That's how our process works.
Yeah, so I appreciate you talking about that because it's so when I talk about e-commerce in the roofing industry, I talk about us being on a pathway there. And that's one of the things where you can see in the user experience and the UI in Roofle Pro is because they actually did a proof of concept before they released this to contractors. Does this work? What do homeowners look for? How do they interact with it? What works and what doesn't? They did all of that for 2 years before they closed that down and restructured the software and then made it available for contractors. Part of that process, though, is Roofle Pro isn't the entire tech stack. And so we are the top of funnel lead generation tool in its that's what we want to be really good at. That's why we partner so well with ProLine, because you are going to need to have certain aspects of this before a homeowner comes on your site, gets a quote, and swipes a credit card or buys the roof. That's e-commerce. I do a very specific definition of e-commerce, which is they are buying the roof online. Right now, if you look at even cars, Tesla is one of the few e-commerce platforms out there because 85% is what I'm told. Still, 85% of those transactions for a new or used car still happens at the dealership. And so there is some adoption that still needs to be had by the consumers. They're not entirely 100% ready for e-commerce. Now, they do make their buying decisions online, just like if you wanted a truck or a car right now, the first thing you're going to do is go online and you're going to look at, what are the makes, models, what are the style, what are the warranties. You're going to get all the information and you're going to see, which lots have what inventory. You're going to have all the information so that by the time you go to the dealership and actually make the purchase, you already know what you're looking for. You're going to get it. And that's kind of the stage at which we're at, I think, with roofing. There are some people that are being very good at doing the entire process e-commerce, but it's adding things like a visualizer, adding things like that instant communication 24 hours a day. Things like, again, until the technology allows us to get rakes, ridges, valleys, everything in an instant, we need to have time. We need 3 hours to get detailed measurements. It's kind of important part of the process. Now, will it be here? Probably sooner than later. Probably. We might get to that point. So there are some technologies that are still need to be developed and then some adoption even from consumers to be able to make a true e-commerce roofing happen. We are definitely on the pathway to it, and we are well down the road, I would say.
Oh, I have a question about that. Is it on the roadmap for, and maybe I missed something, that we're going to be able to use Roofle Pro's technology to manually measure, like draw all the valleys and everything? Or is that on like a roadmap? Because that's, everybody talks about that with roofer. They like use the free self-measure tool. Is that on the, I think that's a big, I mean, I know there's a lot of legal stuff going on, but is that,
And that's the thing. Unfortunately, there's a lot of legal things going on, and there are patents involved in providing those services, and we have just not gone there at this
yeah,
point. So that's really the short answer of that.
that makes sense. That makes sense. That's why I was like confused, and then I realized, oh, it's the legal stuff that I understand why they're not doing this, because it seems like it would be the next step.
Yeah.
But I mean, it's fine. I will say this: it is a really, really helpful thing for us, and we're really excited to increase the conversion rate in 2024, and also just help. We're giving our customers what they want, and we're essentially. I think we started September 1st, the first day that you guys launched. This is when we started using Roof Quote Pro. And to be able to actually track it from all of 2023, and now we have a whole nother year to see the difference in conversion. Like we have the first year of data. We're really excited about seeing how that changes in 2024, because it's going to be a big, I mean, it has been a big part of our roofing business, and I think it's a really helpful tool to any homeowner who wants to just know. They just want to know. They want to know, tell me the ballpark price. And they want it to be a really professional experience to see, what are you talking about then? Like, what kind of roof are you, like, they don't know shingles, they don't know colors and manufacturers, they don't know any of that. So if I just think it's a really helpful tool. I think it's really, really helpful, and really, we are really excited this year to see the difference in the conversion in the lead sources for our business.
And how exciting is that, is to have that amount of data. Like you keep
Yeah.
hearing that more and more and more, like he who has the most data wins. And you have 12 months of data. You've actually got more than that. But the way that it's all set up, we give you all those analytics. You can check it 24/7, how this thing is actually working. But you have so much data now after 12 months of utilizing this, how much better you're going to be this year, how much better you're going to be in 2025. By the time other contractors actually kind of start dabbling in this, they've got years to figure out the data and understand what's going to work for them as a company in their area. What kind of consumers do you have? I think this is going to continue to look different in California as it does in New Jersey, as it does in Iowa. Like you have different consumers, and it's going to work at a different rate. I don't know if you've noticed that in different areas, but you have to figure that out. And this is the stuff, like, you have now the capabilities of running this. If you're a roofing company, get used to it, start analyzing that data, find out what works, what doesn't, and how to truly be creative with it. That's one of my favorite things too. The number of people that are being creative with how they're utilizing it, even if they don't have a ton of website traffic, they're putting QR codes and very creative and unique items. It's been fun. But again, if you're not even doing it, don't think it's just going to plug and just work either, because you're going to have to develop some processes to be able to dial that in. And it really comes back to the data, and the head start that you have right now has got to feel pretty good.
It does. Like, here's just one example. You have data, your analytics page is awesome. So address only leads. People often like write crappy emails and crappy phone numbers because they don't want to be blown up. They know what's going to happen. That's fine. We have your address though. So we're going to do data with postcards and just keep sending you postcards with, guess what? The QR code again.
Yeah.
And so we'll know if you wanted to know what your roof's going to cost. We're just going to send you postcards now automatically because you gave us your address. It's the data. We have it. It's a lead source, and that we don't even have your phone number and your email, but now we have your address, and it's going to be helpful because we're going to show that we really do want to do business with you.
You also might just need a CRM that can actually automate communication.
Right?
Attach it to Roof Quote Pro. If your CRM doesn't do that, maybe you should be with a different CRM. But also, I wanted to pass along one piece of feedback from. I mean, I'm sure this is, you're hearing this all the time. We had a customer that told me, because I was just talking about their measurements and Roof Quote Pro and other things. So they're not currently with Roof Quote Pro. They're with another tool that has basically an instant estimator aspect feature. And they said if there was a way the Roof Quote Pro could provide the measurements, even if it was later, even if it's 3 hours later, if they could provide the measurements so I could use those to make the final quote, I'd immediately switch with them right now. Even if I had to pay more, I would do it. I would do it if I could get the final measurements from Roof Quote Pro for that quote that the homeowner did, so that I can then do my material orders, like do all the quote. They're like, I'll pay the base price plus an extra price per, like I'll pay more for just to get those final measurement values. And so that's just that one piece of feedback. And I'm hearing kind of similar things from multiple people where they're like, if we could just get those measurement values, even if it's not immediate, and we'll pay extra for them, but we'd love it to be able to come from the same source.
Yeah, we had that set up since July of last year. So right inside of our tool, you can order a GF quick measure. You can have it in about 20 minutes. You
Okay.
can have your final detail measurements. You can also get any number of the 3 different Eagle View sources. But not only that, you can create templates. We'll help you to create templates so that you can just, by the click of a mouse, turn those measurements into orders. And then you can push those right into your Beacon Pro Plus account and schedule the truck delivery. So that part of it is actually already there as
Okay.
well.
But you do
Yeah.
have to go through like a third, so you're not getting the Roofle measurements. You're sending them through an integration to one of the other
Yep.
parties to
Yep.
get
So we have
them.
integration with both Quick Measure and GF. GF Quick Measure and Eagle View are both integration partners where just with a couple clicks of a mouse, you will have detail measurements that are easily pushed into become an order and pushed over to Beacon Pro Plus. So
Well,
yeah.
I'm glad I brought up that question then, because now we can
Yeah.
clarify that for everybody.
Yeah.
And yeah, I think some people are they're looking at that and they're just saying, oh, they have integrations with those other tools, but the way you guys have it set up, sounds like it's very streamlined.
Yeah, it's a button. You just boop.
Yeah. In fact,
yeah.
we do have a lot of contractors that just, so when a homeowner clicks the get final proposal button, that automatically orders that quick measure or Eagle View, so that by the time the contractor logs into their portal, those orders have already been made, the detail measurements are already on their way.
Yep.
So literally within minutes, they're going to have all the information they need in the detailed measurements as well.
We're working on a Eagle View integration on our end right now, and so hopefully, I imagine that we'll be able to then also automatically pull in those resulting measurements into ProLine for our quoting tool. Or
It's pretty cool the way that Eagle View does it, because it doesn't matter which platform you order it into, it still comes out of your same account. And so
Correct.
as soon as you order it, it appears everywhere. So it's a fantastic way to do it. I think it's very easy for the contractor to keep track of, which orders have been ordered and where they're sitting, because it's all one account. I like the way that integration works.
The biggest thing about that is that you have discounts with whoever your supplier is. That's a huge deal. Saved us thousands and thousands of dollars. People often complain, well, Eagle was so expensive. We'll get this, you can get a discount. And it's way accurate. That's one thing. I would say from ProLine's perspective, feedback from roofing contractor John, ProLine's perspective, when we do the integration, if Eagle you're listening, we want to verify the PIN, because that would be a feedback I'd give Roofle, is that we have had some measurements where the pin's not verified because we're in Georgia. So the pins are never accurate. So we're pretty much always having to use Eagle View's. Their app is awesome. So you're there, or if you're using the desktop version, you're able to verify the pin. That should be on the roadmap for both ProLine and Roofle. You should be able to verify the pin, because it's immediately frustrating, because you thought you ordered it, then it gets denied an hour later.
Gotcha.
Or 2 hours later. So it's not instant. They don't know instantly. Like, cause I mean, the process was, we ordered it through Roof Quote Pro, and it wasn't immediately that we knew the answer. We were going to the appointment. We're like, where's the measurements? And you click into the thing and you're like, oh, I forgot what verbiage it was, but it was essentially the pin's not verified. It was probably in the middle of somebody's yard. So
Gotcha.
That's good.
Yep.
I apologize. I do have a call at 10:30 that I saw pop up on my calendar. I forgot about. So we'll do have to wrap things up. But usually we'll stop or end the podcast with a question. And so we've tried to switch it up, but we keep coming back to the same question. So just what are you looking forward to the most in the coming week?
Oh man, in the coming week, this is a blistering travel schedule. So I just got back from Tampa yesterday. I had an event. And I'm leaving tonight for Jersey, and then going straight from Jersey on Thursday afternoon to Seattle. I'm doing more red eyes, and
Oh my
I'm just
gosh.
looking forward to seeing if I can pull off. I'm getting old. Remember, and I'm going to be doing my sleeping on airplanes and trying to be functional during the day. I'm looking forward to seeing if I still have the physical wherewithal to make it through a grueling week like this.
Nice.
And then, but I think you mentioned before we hopped on, there's a competition you're looking forward to.
Oh, yes. Yeah. So I get to be a part of a shingling competition on Friday that I can't wait. It's at RCAW. It's a contractor organization out of Washington. I used to compete in these when early 2000s, so decades ago. I would compete in these things on a pretty high level. And I'm looking forward to seeing my fat and out of shape body try to make it around a shingle competition. So I am actually looking forward to that as well. It'll wake me
Nice.
up too, I'm sure.
That's gonna influencer go viral right there.
Right.
Watching Mike Goldenstein shingling.
Yeah,
I'm
you don't
looking
want to
forward
lose
to
to
it.
an influencer, that's for sure.
I'm looking forward to that, to seeing that. John, what are you looking forward to this week?
I think just roofing. We're roofing, so I love. It's depressing. Every winter is depressing. We don't even have snow in Georgia, and people don't roof. So I'm just looking forward to roofing. I love training. Our new guy in Savannah. We're actually may have a new guy in Augusta, Georgia, as well. So maybe training that guy, and then my trucks just got wrapped. Our branding is almost complete. It'll never be complete, but I like the new brand. I think a lot of people, the customers like the new brand. We have a lot of like voluntary feedback that have reached out to us saying, you know, it's not just a nice logo, but good move on changing from Delaria Roofing to Peach State Roofing. It's a big deal, and I knew it was be good, but I'm very thankful to see the fruits of that as we completely shift over to it.
That's good. That's good. I am doing a lot of interviews this week with new hires. We're making a lot of hires at ProLine, which is exciting. I think the biggest thing I'm looking forward to though is Scott Tebay, who's on the podcast 2 weeks ago, is coming into town, so we're going to be hanging out with him a bit. If people are paying attention, he's been showing up a lot on our YouTube lately, so that's looking forward to spending some time with him. And yeah, so that's pretty much it. Let's Mike, where can people find the Un-Fluencer on the internet?
Yeah, so you will not find me on TikTok very much, but I am all over Facebook. I am actually on Instagram, which is kind of fun because I figured out how to remix videos. I'm having a blast doing memes on Instagram as well. And certainly on Roofle.com, you can come and try out the technology, make it see what what would look like on your website, and schedule a demo. We'd love to show you around in a demo. It takes 30 minutes at the so yeah, find us all those different places.
Perfect. Well, thank you so much for coming on, and we'll wrap up there. See you guys next week.
Thanks, guys.
Thanks, Mike. See you.